Clips. And remember, citizens, always subscribe. Hit the notification bell as well. And $19.95 plus shipping and handling will keep you out of hell. All righty, boob tubes. I'm not sure if the stream is working properly. Let me just double check. Oh no, it's surprise. Oh, no. Surprise. Don't know if it's working or not, but hey ho, I will persist and see what's happening. It seems to be doing the damage now. So in the morning, welcome to today's Daily PoliTITS. If you like politics but are sick of the tits, then tune in for your daily fix of my daily PoliTITS. Format's very simple. Go around as many talking holes as I can in the English-speaking news world, and let's just straight away go to RT because they have a
welcome to the news hour.
The Rumbles. And the Rumbles.
We begin with news from the front lines. The Russian Defense Ministry says at least 40 foreign military instructors
let's see if I can get the top of it out.
Following Vladimir.
There we go.
Scores of foreign fighters are killed
my
in a Russian
TikTok
strike on a mercenary camp in Kharkov, according to Russia's MOD, as Moscow urges Kiev to get around the negotiating table following Vladimir Putin's June peace proposal.
This weather, can he make its mind
If the Kiev regime's now illegitimate leader has maturity enough to talk about peace, then there's the peace offer proposed by the Russian president a month ago. And Kiev should better hurry up, because Ukraine is not going to be offered anything better than this for sure.
There's a poll
also ahead on the program, demonstrators pour rivers of fake blood in Washington, D.C. in protest to the Israeli Prime Minister's visit to the US. A family of Ukrainian refugees fight for their child, who they say was abducted by Swiss authorities immediately after birth. We hear the story directly from the little girl's parents.
Yeah, great story. Now, for the purpose, there's Scary Spice. Let me see if I can actually go back on this. Because, interestingly enough, this dude had an interview.
The time is 8:30.
Did he say 8:30? Right, this is what
momentarily.
This is the guy that volleyed in the face his lawyer. And it's hilarious hearing the right-wing press trying to and again, like everything nowadays, it's just getting used as a political football to wind everybody.
I've talked a lot over the last day or so of the incident.
Now, this is the guy that will regularly beat up the BBC after they sacked him
at the airport. Ahmed Yaqub is with us. Mr. Yaqub, good morning.
I don't know about you. He's obviously fair and balanced about the BBC.
A human question to start with. How is your client?
He's doing better than he was. He is to be seen by a neurologist later on today, so I do keep him in your prayers.
Okay. Tell us what
I thought he'd already had a CT scan.
There's a couple of videos circulating on social media. There's obviously the main video that everybody has talked about of the incident where the officer kicks your client in the head, and then
Ian Collins went for the job. BBC
What actually
question time. He got knocked back and sacked for the BBC. He ended up in the commercial sector, constantly slagging off the BBC. Nothing to see here, honestly.
Take the uniforms off the police officers and think of them as normal civilians. And let's take this somewhere else on the street and not in an airport. where 5 thugs come in with weapons and then continue to assault a individual, and they carry on the assault whilst that individual is defenseless and not providing any sort of resistance.
Just to chip in on that point, Mr. Yaqub, if I could, there was clearly something happened before it got to that. There was, and we've seen some of the video evidence that looks like a very confrontational moment of some men.
Nobody has an idea what
adhering to what the police are asking them to do. What was going? Why did the police originally stop these people?
The clips that you are referring to right now that came onto the video, that was some passerbys, some innocent bystanders who were being threatened with tasers and a pepper spray for videoing the horrific crimes committed by the police.
But there must have been an instance. The police didn't just turn up and suddenly, jump on somebody's head. There must have been an incident that came beforehand.
They turned up.
Now, I would just like to pitch in here in the sense that if none of this footage comes out, because it's in an airport, there's cameras everywhere, no doubt the cops had body cameras as well, or at least a few of them or something, I don't know the exact technicalities with who does and doesn't wear a body cam. But if no footage comes out what happened previous to this footage here, then you've got to smell a rat. Or you've got to be asking yourself, what did go on beforehand and why? If it was so horrendous, why are the cops not showing it? I mean, nobody's even said to me I've not heard anywhere where that woman copper was punched in the face or she got caught with a flailing arm or something, But what I do know is she and then guys turned up, all charged up, all emotional because there's a crying, injured female there who should never be anywhere near the front lines, and they acted in emotion and not professionally.
It was for an allegation of assault.
All right,
when they came in
to
the airport, to everyone's surprise, they came in brandishing.
I don't know if you've heard Eurostar, the French fast trains, which are helping facilitate the Olympics. I'm pretty sure the open ceremony's today or tomorrow. There's been a mass arson attack on them. Lots of different stations, important stations have been set on fire. And it's ground the trains to pretty much a halt in France.
Tasers. Ahead of the Olympics. Like they were prepared to do this.
Well, it's an airport, right? I mean, heightened security and everything.
I mean, but there was no fire.
Look, that's the woman that just
reports, and there was
look at the woman just like that. Oh, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do.
So out of nowhere and for no reason. I mean, there was obviously an incident that preceded the pictures we are now seeing. The police were responding to something, and the men we see in the video are clearly not being helpful.
Now, the police protect their own, right? That goes without motherfucking saying. If there was body cam footage or footage of these dudes clearly assaulting a police officer, they would be arrested. Because if they got arrested, it would relieve some of the pressure for these cops on camera. But don't let normality or rhyme or reason enter into your head. Just fall deep into the social media bubbles which are telling you what to think.
To the police.
Are you talking about the man? Are you talking about the man who's on the floor right now?
Well, the man on the floor is your client, right?
Yeah, and the man behind him.
Okay.
Are you saying he's not being helpful by sitting on the bench?
Well, what happened with those guys then? Because we do seem to have seen various videos, and whether it's these, you can clear this up for us, whether it's these same men or whether it's other men, but there seems to be a confrontation that takes place before this happens.
I mean, what the videos that have been circulating, you've seen them, I've seen them. I've not seen anything confrontational from those two men.
Okay.
I mean, if there is something, then I would like to see.
All right, no, that's fine. That's why I wanted to clear that up, whether these were the same people or different people. So were the different people part of that group? Were they...
In total, so there's 3 people from Rochdale who went to receive their mother. So the 2 boys, one of them was sitting in the back on the bench with his hands behind his head, who got tasered afterwards. One of them who's on the floor and is not resisting at all, who got hit with the steel toe cap boots. And if that was a civilian, of course, he probably would have been charged for attempted murder for doing that. But that's a different story. So 2 of them. And then the mother was definitely not being confrontational.
Now, this is meant to be the home of common sense. Listen to this fucking
there was
presenter.
Something had happened there that threw up momentarily a very chaotic situation that the police were responding to. That I would imagine, and we will have an investigation, of course, but I would imagine the police would say everything was out of hand. There was a lot of shouting. There was a lot of resistance. Whoever it came from, whether it's your clients or not. There was
boot to the face.
It was a situation that had to be dealt with, and in the heat of the moment,
look at the guy. He looks like a fucking action figure to be standing.
In the heat of the moment, are you going to give someone brain damage? Are you going to do barbaric acts like that? Imagine.
And I'm certainly not defending that. And
I know you're not defending.
But I wonder whether the police view on this will be that it looks, if you just look at one shot, then that's what you see, and it doesn't look good at all. I completely agree with you. But of course, the police would say it was a volatile situation. The terrain was not a good place to be.
Yeah, of course it wasn't, and I want to see other videos. I want to hear their side of the story, but all we have heard so far is that a officer has been suspended. But like I keep referring, because I'm a lawyer, I see this on a daily basis. If you take away the uniforms and these gentlemen and women were civilians, they would be arrested, they would be remanded.
But of course, you can't take away the uniform, can you? So you're saying your client was completely 100% compliant throughout the entire process from start to finish?
This is not about being compliant from start to finish. What I am trying to get at is at that moment in time, when the police have turned up, they were not resisting at all.
All right. But I think to establish the circumstances, many people understandably will want to know that your client, I think you're representing 2 people here.
Three.
So three men you're representing. People would want to...
the 2 boys and the mother.
Okay. So So 2 boys and the mother, who we saw crouching beside her son. I assume that was the mother in that video that we saw. So up to that point, they had been 100% compliant with everything that was asked of them by the police.
I mean, it's early stages, isn't it? We need to have investigations, and
what a lawyer answer, man.
What happened? But the point I'm making is the evidence that has been presented so far is that they were compliant, and they've been a victim of a terrible assault
out of nowhere.
Pakistan.
I mean, they went to pick up
Pakistan, buddy?
Yeah. And some police just decided to beat them up.
Let me give you another fact. Their older brother and the woman's 3rd child is a saving police officer.
So I understand. With GMP, right?
And he tells me, yes, GMP, and he tells me
what the fuck that is.
He can't go into work. And I asked him why. He said he's afraid that they might kill him.
So he thinks if he goes into work, he will be killed?
Yes, he's afraid for his life if he goes into work.
Who's going to kill him? I mean, that's, with respect to him, that's a preposterous announcement.
Man.
Thinks he's going to be killed?
if you did get stamped in the fucking head with the cops and it was all over the media, you would, I don't know, I would try and milk it for all I could. I'd try and get as much dough out the fuckers as I could.
Instructs
100%.
me that he stood up in his cell all night because he took that threat seriously, of course, after being assaulted so
he was going
badly.
To be killed. I mean, where does he think he is, for goodness sake? It's Manchester, for goodness sake.
That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. So this is the public perception right now. This is coming from the public. These are not my words.
Let me ask you this. We understand the police officers were assaulted in this fracas as well. So did your client break the nose of a police officer?
I haven't seen no evidence, and no evidence has been produced of the officers being attacked. Once that evidence is before us, then we can respond to that.
So when they were arrested and taken to the police station, were they questioned over assaulting police officers?
They were questioned over assaulting an emergency worker, but no video evidence was produced.
So they haven't been charged with anything in that respect?
No, they haven't been charged with no criminal offence.
All right. You talked a moment ago about an investigation. In the meantime, many people have decided to protest. Those protests have sort of got a bit bigger. They've also got quite varied with other protest groups joining in. Do you condone those protests?
How did Black Lives Matter get involved, man? They really need to change their name. Their name is just divisive, but they know it is, man. So stick to your principles and your goals and what you fucking want to point out and all that. Change the motherfucking name, and then you...
What happened, but I
don't think they named that organisation Black Lives Matter by accident, you know, and why they've stuck with it when it is so divisive.
So I made a video asking everyone to remain peaceful because we're after justice.
We don't need a protest, do we? We've got an investigation going on. The Prime Minister has talked about it. Andy Burnham is talking about it. This is clear. This is happening in broad daylight. No one's going to be hiding reality here, and things are caught on video. We don't need anybody to protest on this.
That's the good thing. Although the people who did capture this on video were threatened by police officers with tasers and threatened that their phones would be taken off them for videoing these crimes by the police officers. They stood their ground, so they must be congratulated, the people who actually caught this on camera.
But I mean, it's in an airport.
You can believe that.
Camera. You can't move around an airport without cameras being everywhere, right? So the police weren't trying to hide anything. They knew they would be filmed.
There have been incidents in the past. There have been incidents in the past where we haven't been able to get hold of CCTV. So I have to commend those brave men and women who were threatened with tasers for simply recording the crimes that the police were committing at the time.
Would you ask the protesters...
They didn't want the world to see those crimes that they were committing.
All right. Would you ask the protesters to stand down now that we know there is an investigation?
The protesters... the thing is this. There is an investigation. Yeah. We know. I know there's an investigation.
This lawyer's a fucking slimy prick, man.
Taken place of one police
you should join my Saturday night game show. Yes, no, or fucking die. You're fucked.
Or 6 civilians
he wouldn't survive long, I don't think.
Someone with a metal pole and hit them with on their head.
But that's not an equivalence, is it? That's no example at all.
Steel toe caps, steel toe cap boots. It's a part of the uniform for armed police officers, steel toe cap boots, and they can generate more force. A kick scientifically can generate more force.
Everything is just getting pounced on by people on opposite sides of the polarisation of the nation of the world right now, and it's getting used for political agendas.
That guy's life, who was on the floor, not resisting at all, wasn't in danger with that kick.
I would condemn anyone that has kicked somebody in the head unless we discover...
Again, even that slimy ass fucking Ian Collins. Can he call a spade a spade? Can he answer the question, yes or no? It's all fucking lawyer jibber jabber fucking meaning sweet Fanny Adams fucking answers. Yes, but up a bit, yeah, down a bit, left a bit, right a bit, boom, and the fucking truth and facts are gone.
There are circumstances that we're not aware of.
Are you suggesting that that boy's life wasn't in danger when he was...
I have, to quote your own words on these things, I have no idea until, I mean, I heard you said he had a cyst on the brain, whether this was caused by this. I guess that the speculation is that it is.
I'm talking about naturally, if you see the video,
That's horrific.
If you see the video.
Yeah, it's horrific to watch in isolation, but nobody, I don't know anyone that's disputed that.
I've seen people die with less force, you see. I mean, look, if you were a first-time visitor to the UK and you see this...
Well, I mean, you could argue that about all manner of fracas that take place. There's a lot of things that don't look good, and nobody is in any way defending that if it is simply a case that an innocent man, where there was no backstory, no build-up, but suddenly out of nowhere, a bunch of cops descended and kicked a man in the head, then that police officer should go to jail. I think we would all agree with that.
Thank you very much.
But if the police officer, if the guys had shouted at the police, which, by the way, see, when you join the police, you expected to get shouted at, you expected to get into confrontations. That's your fucking job. To police, not to walk around fucking skipping like fucking unicorns and fucking rainbows, man. And the whole idea of going through the fucking months, if not years of training, and then the added on training to become an armed police officer, is so that when these things happen, you have the presence of mind to keep your cool, even if there's a wee greeting fucking lassie with her nose smashed in, and act professionally. I mean, imagine that guy took his gun out and he started acting emotional. Like fucking little Yosemite Sam. You rootness, tootness. So, regardless of what these fucking guys done beforehand, regardless, cops always should act professionally. Getting emotional because there's a little greeting lassie with a broken nose doesn't justify jumping up and booting some cunt to the cootin'. It doesn't. And no universe does it. And if you want to stay in a country where cops can get away with that, carte blanche, then we're all fucked. My God, if cops were allowed to do that carte blanche, I would have got a good few volleys in my face after the coppers in my time, man.
If that is the case. Let me come back.
That's not true, actually, man. As soon as the cops get involved, I'm like that. Peace. There's no point of fighting with them, do you know what I mean? There is no fucking point. He's trying to get processed and out as soon as possible.
To your own view on the police, do you respect the police, Mr. Yakub?
I highly, highly respect the police. I am for policing. I've never been against the police. And I always say that everyone should act in the remits of the law.
Aren't you quite anti-police, though? I mean, it's been alleged that you have courted controversy by teaching people how...
It's been alleged, right? So just pulling rumours out of probably Facebook. Social media's fucking land. It's been alleged that one leg's shorter than the other, so you're just going round in circles here.
To frustrate the police during interviews, bragging about getting reduced sentences for drug dealers. Is that true?
It's quite ridiculous that you are bringing up irrelevant.
Well, I'm one.
It is ridiculous, mate, but what he's trying to do is he's trying to smear you. He's trying to smear you. As he said, it's been alleged you have one leg shorter than the other. Does that mean that you just walk around in circles? It's been alleged I'm a journalist here sitting on Talk TV, Rupert Murdoch sticking my mouth, slagging off the BBC after they sacked me. I hate this wee slimy prick, man. Well, I hate lawyers are all slimy pricks, full stop. Talk TV, talk in the bin, whatever they want to call themselves nowadays, their presenters are even more slimy fucks, man.
I'm wondering if you are...
See, when it rains, these presenters have to go onto the pavement, you know, like fucking slugs, so they don't drown. That's how slimy they are.
I'm bringing it up because your own background, you're quite political, you're quite, you know, there's been suggestions you're anti-police, and if that is the case, I'm wondering whether you're the right person.
He's just said that he supports the police and he's actually representing a police officer. You specky dumb bastard.
Person to be representing somebody.
Anti-police. Right now, a man has been assaulted by the police who behaved in a thuggish manner. And you are asking me irrelevant questions?
I'm asking in order to get to... It's not irrelevant because I want to know your backstory in order to understand where you're coming from.
Why is there an argument here? Why are these two people facing off against each other? Why are they not just discussing shit on the table? Why is George Galloway getting brought up? Why is anti-police shit getting brought up? Why is this lawyer representing drug dudes in the past getting brought up? Lawyers represent all forms of scumbags, fucking drug dealers included. That's even if you think drug dealers are scumbags, you know what I mean? Everybody, most people I know, like to know a drug dealer. Am I speaking out? I'm not even speaking out of turn. It's a fucking reality. You know what I mean? Like, I bet you that Ian Collins loves his sniff. You know, the likelihood is he does.
What's your backstory?
Because your back...
Bouncing about Fleet Street, bouncing about the broadcast world, bouncing about the shitty of London. And you try to tell me he's no had a wee sniff in his time? Where did you get that then from, fucking Mr. Collins, doing your fucking boots the pharmacy? I don't think so, you fucking slimy
I'm not
prick.
the person at the centre of this. I'm just asking some questions here that lots of people are thinking. And
You're not asking questions, you're adding loaded questions, mate. You're asking, well, it's been alleged that you've got one leg shorter than the other.
Of course, you stood as an independent candidate at the election. Your close links with the George Galloway's workers.
Bing! This is why these two people are arguing. Because this dude is with George Galloway and the other guys get Rupert Murdoch lackey. And I don't know if you noticed this, but it's quite easy to see what position on the political spectrum the Rupert Murdoch dominated press are, from Fox News to the Times to the Sun to the News of the World that had to get disbanded, it became so toxic, to Talk TV and the rest of Rupert Murdoch's media empire.
Party, you have alleged to have courted controversy by teaching people how to frustrate the police. I think to establish those...
He's a fucking lawyer, you dick.
...points is reasonable to know where you're coming from. And it's, you know, we're not North Korea. It's fine if that's your position.
No, I'm coming from a point of justice.
Okay.
And people need to realize I'm doing this on a pro...
He's coming from a position of a lawyer representing his client, so he's trying to get as much dough and sympathy, etc., for his client. And if he has got political leanings, it looks like he's using it as a political football as well. And those two, did you see the guy that get done in, man? Doesn't he look the brightest spark in the bucket? Brightest spark, does he?
No bono basis. I'm not getting paid for this. I'm doing this simply for justice. I'm doing this for justice for the
It's just
poor.
about the justice, not an anti-police thing. Is your client, are you, along with your client, considering suing the police, Mr. Yaqub?
No, we haven't considered that. Right now, our main focus is the well-being of the clients and justice to be served. Justice in terms of the IOPC, the Independent Office of Police Conduct. I've got a meeting with them today at 10:30, the regional chair. So they've moved pretty swiftly. They moved very swiftly. and I am impressed by.
So my TikTok gets shut down this morning because toxic Tommy Robinson. Apparently you're not allowed to call him and his cult retards on TikTok.
To find out more about where this goes?
I have no idea why.
Well, today
so I started up a new one.
And some
put one video up. I got a community guidelines, right? Because I was asking,
you see,
how stupid are the cult of Tommy Robinson? Let me see, what was I actually using as an example? Let's see if I've still got it up. I'm not sure. It was on the Tickety Talks. I might still have it. Might still be here. Right. So it was Tommy Robinson saying some shit. Where the fuck was it? He removed it. It had that wee slimy cunt for GB News on it. There it's there. Right, mob rule wins. I don't remember seeing protests like this over a grooming gang scandal. And then Tommy Robinson Gates at Downing Street. Right? So this guy has never seen any of the Tommy Robinson protests in his fucking life. Never, ever, 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 ever. What fucking channel am I on here? I don't even know. Let me see. So just how fucking stupid do they rely on you being? You know, to repost mob rule wins. Well, what do you want then, Tommy? What's your end goal? Yeah? You're the one that calls out your mob onto the streets every time you need to fucking put the begging bowl out for some dough. You're the one that directed that mob because of grooming gangs and the invasion of the brown people in boats. They start climbing the gates at Downing Street, where if they got over it, they would have got hundreds would have got mowed down with fucking machine gun fire, AR-15s. So how stupid and short a memory do they rely you on having? I don't remember seeing protests like this over the grooming gangs. So Tommy Robinson's retweeted GB News. Imagine that. I'm shocked. Tommy Robinson tuning into Nigel Vadge TV after directing lots of his cult to join UKIP back in the day and vote UKIP. Now it's response. Now it's reforming it. He's directing everybody. And look, the People's Channel. Is this pure people? Do you hang around with guys like that? Do you go to a boozer where you see slimy fucking shitty of London? Little slimy cunts like that? Did Tommy Robinson even hang about with motherfuckers like that? You don't see like slimy cunts like that in the Tommy Robinson mobs. Now they're like fucking 9X. Fucking just heat stuck on a big fucking protein fucking powdered fucking testosterone injected up, man. Fucking mate, you've got no muscle, you're just all mass. I mean, you probably couldn't lift up a pencil, but you look about yon size. Anyway, let's get back to it, man.
What they did, because of course this, like I said, one of their brothers is a saving police officer. So before this incident, they were very proud. They were very proud of their son being a police officer.
What does justice look like to you?
Justice looks like the individuals that were involved, the police officers, the police ladies who acted in such a barbaric, thuggish manner, to be in court, in a criminal court, being prosecuted for their crimes, to set an example, because we don't want to have an incident like this again. We don't want a George Floyd incident in the United Kingdom.
We will watch with interest. Mr. Yaqub, thank you for your time. Ahmed Yaqub, who's the lawyer for the man who was kicked in the head. You've seen the video. You've heard his response. Over to you on this one. 0344 499 1000. 10 to 9 now. This is Talk.
Right, I just wanted to show that because, well, it's on the tip of everybody's tongue. You know, that's what we're all getting told to think about right now. You know, fuck everything else that's happening in the world. That's what we're getting told to think about right now. Oh, wow, it's rumble. Oh no, hold on.
1 minute past 11 a.m. this Friday in Alexandria, in Baghdad, and right here in Moscow. Welcome to the News Hour on RT.
We
begin with
in the morning. Where's my
the Russian Defense Ministry says at least 40 foreign military instructors
Imagine opinion
have been
turning up
killed
on
in an
anti-Western
airstrike on a camp
media.
in Kharkov
Can
city.
you believe it?
Dozens of
Stop,
Ukrainian
I
soldiers
told you.
also
Shut.
reportedly lost their lives in the high-precision Iskander ballistic missile strike. The targeted forces, including foreign...
Right, hold on. 40 foreign instructors killed in Russian ballistic missile strike on Kharkov. Right. Who are these instructors? What nationalities are they? And are they the British, French and German army members that are in there instructing the Ukrainians how to kill Russians?
Mercenaries had taken shelter in a construction company building at an industrial site in the key battleground region. Meanwhile, the United Nations Security Council convened on Thursday under Russia's presidency to discuss threats to international security. Moscow's ambassador to the UN spoke about the, quote, senselessness of Ukraine's current formula for ending the conflict. Vasily Nebensia said Kiev must seriously consider the Russian president's proposal to bring about peace.
Just recently, Kiev authorities promoted the pseudo-peaceful so-called Zelensky formula as the only foundation of settlement appealing to them. It makes no sense from both the standpoint of elementary logic and the realities on the front lines. So we have many questions, and maybe the representative of the Kiev regime could provide some clarity. But for some reason, only they understand why they ignored our invitation to participate in today's UN Security Council session. If the Kiev regime's now illegitimate leader has maturity enough to talk about peace, then there's the peace offer proposed by the Russian president a month ago. And Kiev should better hurry up, because Ukraine is not going to be offered anything better than this for sure.
Russian ambassador Nebensia made it clear that Russia has been willing to negotiate.
He's another American, I think he's actually an android. Just because the way they talk.
This is not matching reality.
It's not actually a real person. I've never came across a human being. In fact, sorry, I take it back. Jim Shea, Jim White.
Milk Western countries for as much as he possibly can, while the
my
lives
name's
of his
Jim Shea.
people are perishing on the
I'm from
battlefield
Glasgow,
each day.
but I don't talk like
Meanwhile,
anybody
he's sold
else
off
from
half of
Glasgow.
Ukraine's agricultural land to foreign corporations. Now, Western members of the Security Council made a point of saying in their remarks that they simply couldn't sympathize with or show any support for Russia or acknowledge any of what Russia was saying. Not unfamiliar, pretty typical. Here's what we heard.
A few countries have deepened
See, normal
their
human
support
being.
to Russia.
Last guy, android.
Today I'd like to focus on China, the DPRK, and Iran's military support to Russia that is directly contributing to Russia's war against Ukraine. China's...
Let's talk about all the NATO countries flooding that fucking area, that part of the world with billions of pounds worth of loans and weapons. No. China and the... Wow, man. North Korea. If you think about the impression that the West has typically got in North Korea, you think they're all in poverty and all that. Nah, they're exporting weapons to fucking Ruski.
So-called no-limits
missiles and all that, which...
and large-scale support is propping
Let's
up
be honest,
the Russian
North Korea's a
defense
proxy
industrial base.
for China,
We
more or
of the
less,
view
isn't it?
that today's meeting on the issue of weapons transfers to Ukraine is irrelevant. Instead, For example, this council should address in depth Russia's illegal weapons procurement from the DPRK and the worrying trend of enhanced.
It's great, man. Illegal. Why is it illegal? Well, we say so. Okay, and this is where it's worth. This is where, for me, it was worthwhile going down the rabbit hole of all the legalese pish and all that in the past, because ultimately, all these people in funny costumes, with Darth Vader outfit wearing motherfuckers with big batons, tasers, guns, sprays. Where did they get the authority to tell any human being on this earth if we're all equal what to do? The magic man in the sky, that's how they justified it. And that's how the laws, that's how the courts still justify the pish and the justice that they dish out. And why they justify why they say they've got the ability and authority to tell you what to do. And remember, in this country, not for me because I hold my own elections, but everybody consents to this pish. Roll up, create your social contract in the polling booth with a big fucking X. All we need to do is get you a freak of the circus that you're willing to vote for. And there's every freak of the circus out there.
Military cooperation between Pyongyang and Moscow.
Now, the U.S. representative made a point of lashing out at China and blaming Beijing for the conflict. And the Chinese representative took issue with the...
He's definitely the best AI I've seen.
U.S. representative's words, pointing out that China has never taken advantage of the situation or provided any lethal weapons, that they exercise strict control over military items in accordance with the rules of the United Nations and the international markets. China rebutted the allegations from the United States very effectively. Here's what the Chinese representative said before the council.
Ukrainian foreign minister is currently visiting China. Foreign Minister Wang Yi held talks with him and had in-depth exchanges of views on the Ukraine crisis. We note that Foreign Minister Kuleba said that Ukraine values China's views and has carefully studied the 6-point understandings proposed by China and Brazil on the political settlement of the Ukraine crisis, and that Ukraine is willing and ready to engage in dialogue and in negotiation with Russia. The Ukraine crisis occurred against the backdrop of historical complexities and practical realities. It is in essence an eruption of security dynamics in Europe. China had no part in creating this crisis, nor it is a party of the conflict. China has not provided lethal weaponry to any party to the conflict and has not and will not do anything to profit from it.
Now, one of the special guests who opened the meeting was the former foreign minister of Austria. And when she spoke, she emphasized the flow of illegal weapons and the danger that this conflict and the policy of Western countries just sending endless amount of weapons to Ukraine poses to the countries of the European Union in the long run.
They do not speak like any normal. You get them on American TV all the fucking time, don't you, man?
Very
they don't speak like normal human beings.
Those Europeans asking for more arms
normal human being
ignore the nature of arms trading. The Ukrainian arms market, marked by corruption, might increase new business opportunities for those criminals. It was the adoption of the Arms Trade Treaty in 2013 which marked a turning point in the international community's efforts to regulate the global trade in conventional arms and to promote peace and security. All present here are aware of its shortcomings. Some signed but did not ratify. Alas, when it comes to the tremendous inflow of weapons into Ukraine, which started in spring 2014, the diplomatic consensus on the need to contain the global flow was quickly
pay more money, man.
So
get a
we had
better
a situation in the Security Council where Russia raised some very serious concerns, pointed to the possibility of resolving the conflict diplomatically, and Western leaders continued with their accusations, stonewalling the entire conversation. Pretty typical for a UN Security Council meeting regarding the conflict in Ukraine.
The Israeli Prime Minister's first overseas trip since October 7th is continuing. in the US. Benjamin Netanyahu met with Vice President Kamala Harris on Thursday, who's likely to secure the Democratic Party's nomination for the top job next week. He's also scheduled to sit down with Republican presidential nominee.
Come on, Michelle! Put a bullet in her head, man!
Israel to agree to a US-backed peace proposal, citing the scale of civilian casualties in Gaza. She added the release of Israeli hostages and relief for the suffering of people in the enclave was a top priority, while also emphasizing that
it's easy to say stuff that sounds great and appeases people.
Support for Israel
it's different actually doing something about it.
From when I was a young girl collecting funds to plant trees for Israel, to my time in the United States Senate and now at the White House, I have had an unwavering commitment to the existence of the State of Israel, to its security, and to the people of Israel. I've said it many times, but it bears repeating. Israel has a right to defend.
I've said it many times, but it bears repeating. They always refer to Israel as a state, not a country. I know it just means something. Is it the 51st state?
Defend itself. And how it does so matters.
Well, as Benjamin Netanyahu met top officials in the White House, protesters poured rivers of fake blood in the streets of the U.S. Capitol in anger at the visit. Demonstrators are calling for an end to the war in Gaza, which has claimed the lives of over 39,000 Palestinians, according to local health officials. Well, as Israel seeks more funding from the US to continue its military operation in Gaza, China has been brokering a unity agreement between Palestinian factions, namely Fatah and Hamas. And while some Middle Eastern countries have hailed the deal, Israel's dismissed it, vowing to destroy militants in the Strip.
Hamas and Fatah signed an agreement in China for joint control of Gaza after the war. Instead of renouncing terrorism, Palestinian leader Mahmoud Abbas embraces the murders of Hamas and reveals his true face. In practice, this will not happen because the Hamas regime will be crushed. Abbas will be able to watch over Gaza from afar. Israel's security will remain solely in Israel's hands.
The agreement was signed not only by the two longtime rivals, but also a dozen other Palestinian groupings. According to the deal, Hamas will form part of the government for post-war Gaza. The factions also aim to create an independent Palestinian state with East Jerusalem as its capital. The Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson emphasized that Beijing has always supported the Palestinian people's right to sovereignty.
The question of Palestine is at the heart of the Middle East issue. China has no selfish interests on the question of Palestine. We value morality and stand for justice. We always firmly support the Palestinian people in restoring their lawful national rights and the people in the Middle East in taking their destiny into their own hands. China will continue to implement the Global Security Initiative and make greater contribution to peace and stability in the Middle East.
Well, Hamas and Fatah have been feuding for quite some time. Just under 2 decades ago, they fought a war for control of Palestinian territories. As a result, Hamas took over Gaza, whereas Fatah regained control of parts of the West Bank. We spoke to the director of Middle East Studies at the University of Oklahoma, Joshua Landis. He's of the view the Netanyahu government will ignore the Chinese-led proposal.
Israel plans to stay in Gaza. The United States and Europeans have said that Israel must withdraw from Gaza and institute a two-state solution. That's what President Biden said, that the only solution was not to return to the status quo, but to move ahead with a two-state solution. So the Palestinians are trying to position themselves with this unity government to be able to provide a government for Gaza at the end of this conflict. But of course, as we've just heard, Netanyahu said, no way, we're going to appoint who rules Gaza, and we're going to stay there as an occupying force. So this sets up the West versus the Palestinians. It sets up Israel versus the Palestinians, and in a sense, the West versus Israel, and really push the Palestinians to come to some kind of formal agreement, which they have done. And that is extremely important because otherwise they're going to be sitting ducks. If they're divided and they're fighting amongst each other, Netanyahu can... steamroll them, and he doesn't have to regard them in any kind of serious way.
Okay, moving the programme on now. The death toll from landslides in South Ethiopia could top 500 people, the UN warns. Over half that amount have already lost their lives following what's been described as the deadliest mudslide in the African country's history. Last week, heavy rains in the nation.
So, let's go and see what Al Jazeera are saying to it.
Those who belong to the student wing of Awami League, they were thrown from the roof and they died. There were policemen who was killed and...
It's my life. I risk...
Chaos in the Olympics.
Top of our news.
Transport chaos in the Olympic city. Paris is paralysed by what the French government says is a deliberate attack on train stations. The game's host was already awash with security. We look at the steps it was taking.
Now, if you're in the cult of Tommy Robinson, automatically you're blaming Allah Akbar nut bars, right? But this is France. You've got all sorts of crackpot groups in France that are happy to protest and do all sorts of shit. So time will tell whether this was domestic people fucking this up, because they don't... A lot of French don't want the Olympic Games there because it's fucking up their city. Or what is it, the Parisians? Because it's inconveniencing them. So who knows who done this? Time will tell whether it be Allah Akbar nut bars or some sort of a domestic group. Maybe it's just Stop Oil or some shit, you know?
To ensure people's safety. I'm Marlene Saeed. This is Al Jazeera live from Doha. Also coming up, the Philippine Coast Guard deploys floating barriers in an effort to contain an oil spill from a capsized tanker. Plus,
we cannot look away in the face of these tragedies. We cannot allow ourselves to become numb to the suffering, and I will not be silent.
Addressing the plight of the Palestinian people, the US Vice President...
What I will do is spout a lot of rhetoric and do Sweet Fanny Adams, like everybody beforehand. Bumping your gums with no end result.
The city
this is really bad here, nut job. There's 10 tons of bombs, bullets, love bombs
just
and
in the
bullets.
past hour from fires deliberately lit at train stations. These are live pictures from the French capital. 800,000 travellers are expected to be affected on the day of the Paris Olympics opening ceremony, which takes place later on today. People are being advised not to go to train stations. Now, according to the rail company SNCF, they say the network has been the victim of several malicious arson attacks that have damaged its facilities. The statement goes on to say that high-speed train traffic has been disrupted and a large number of services will have to be cancelled.
The TGVs on these lines must use the older rail lines, which will result in delays and cancellations. Half of all trains on these lines will be cancelled, except for the Bordeaux region, where only a quarter of trains will run. The impact is massive. I spare a thought for all of the families who were supposed to go on holiday and who will have been impacted by these criminal, scandalous acts, which I firmly condemn.
It's
an attack on the beginning of holiday season when the SNCF is attacked. A part of France is being attacked. It's French people being attacked. It was supposed to be a celebration. Today is a time when everyone goes on holiday and, of course, the opening of the Olympic Games. A lot of French people were planning to go to Paris and treat themselves. They'd taken several days off to share in the joy of the Olympics. All that's ruined now.
Let's go straight to Bernard Smith, who's in Paris for us. And Bernard, we're just also learning in the last few seconds that Eurostar trains will also be cancelled. I mean, this is a nightmare for organisers, isn't it?
Well, whoever done it, I'm pretty sure this is exactly what he had in mind.
Nationwide attack on the arteries, the high-speed rail arteries that connect France from north, east, south and west. 800,000 passengers affected by this. Security was always a concern at these Olympics, and here you see why. The Transport Minister says it clearly looks like it's a deliberate attempt to sabotage the network. That, he says, because of the apparent coordination of the attack on the lines, the vans that were found, he said, and the people who fled, although we've heard no more about that, just that people did flee. It affected the northeast and the northwestern railway networks. There's an attack on the southeast as well, but that fire didn't work. Just excuse me, all those. There's a lot of sirens, a lot of people being transported around. And what seems to have
fucking hell, man!
Is that
Turn the fuck, what's wrong with your fucking, what is it with these audio engineers that are
damage, and in fact the SNCF head has said that these cables that connect to signalling boxes, they have to be reattached, and in each big thick cable there's hundreds of other cables, and it's going to take a long time to fix them. They think perhaps not until Monday will the network get back to normal.
And Bernard, as you say, security, a big operation already in place. I mean, it's hard to see that this wasn't linked to the Olympic Games. I mean, talk us through, you know, the preparations that were already in place ahead of these Olympic Games.
Yeah, I think you have to say on the day of the opening ceremony of the Olympics, this attack on France's railway network is clearly, there is clearly a connection with that. Now, the French government has already promised unprecedented security operation with up to 45,000 security personnel trying to secure the Games. They include 15,000 members of the French military, 250 British officers, 50 specially trained dogs, and 1,750 police from countries like Spain, Germany, South Korea, and Qatar. Now, the unique opening ceremony along a 6-kilometre stretch of the River Seine will showcase 10,500 athletes representing 206 national Olympic committees. Now, more than 320,000 fans are expected to watch from the riverbanks of the Seine, and access to the centre of Paris has been heavily restricted, as my colleague Natasha Butler reports.
Central Paris in near lockdown.
Isn't it cool, big or clever to fucking blast sirens, man, through your audio to make it sound, ooh, we're really on the front line.
The opening ceremony that will be held on the river rather than in a stadium for the first time in Games history. Nearly 7,000 athletes will travel by boat during the event, an ambitious and daring project and a huge security challenge.
We have a multi-environment security approach, which means considering all sorts of threats. For the underwater threat, we have deployed sonar at the bottom of the Seine. We have also barriers on the river and positions on the land. We are coordinating closely with the French Air Force.
Anti-drone squads, helicopters and fighter jets will secure the skies. There'll be a no-fly zone
Remember the haters for our freedoms, y'all.
And providing additional backup, nearly 2,000 police officers from other countries. The organisers of the Paris Games wanted to do something different. So instead of hosting the Olympics at venues outside the city, they've made the city itself into the main venue with its famous monuments as backdrops. But that is why the security operation is so vast. French authorities have spent years planning the event and say they are ready.
We are very well prepared, and French people will be very proud of their police officers.
Confident but vigilant, multiple attacks against France in the past decade, cyber threats and wars in Ukraine and Gaza have raised the stakes. Israel's team arrived with extra security.
What world do we stay in?
World Cup football are target for terrorists. Of course, when you are a war,
you want to have a wee race with somebody,
like
a wee competition, and you need to call in the army.
Security measures.
There is no zero risk, but the hope is that everything's in place for the Olympics to run smoothly and safely as excitement builds ahead of what's promising to be an inspiring few weeks of sport in one of the world's most spectacular cities. Natasha Butler, Al Jazeera, Paris.
Let's go to Neil Fergus. He's a risk management and security specialist and the CEO of Intelligent Risks Limited. He joins us from Paris. And good of you to join us on the programme. Given the lengths the French have taken, as outlined there in our colleague Natasha's package, to prepare for this event in terms of the security preparation, this is going to come as a huge blow, isn't it? Are you surprised that we're seeing such an incident ahead of the opening ceremony?
No.
I'm kind of surprised because although the French have done everything imaginable to protect this event and the visitors and the athletes, there are malicious forces out there that have been striving to embarrass the French government. There have been repeated cyber attacks against systems and domains. There have been fraudulent cyber postings put out to try to, I guess, terrorise the population and visitors with imagery threatening the streets will be filled with blood. The reality, of course, is the French are very,
Obama's
very
endorsed Kamala
very experienced.
Harris.
And when we worked on the bid with them back in 2016, they delivered the UEFA Cup, the European Championships, and it was a first-rate security operation. And I believe we are...
Right, so let's see if the BBCs are on it at the top of the hour. Looks like they are.
Sabotaged in a major coordinated attack on several key lines into Paris, leaving 800,000 passengers affected.
A damning review of England's
health despite tight security in the capital itself, where hundreds of thousands of people are due to watch a spectacular ceremony with athletes carried on boats along the River Seine. Former US President Barack Obama is due to endorse Kamala Harris in the race for the White House. The UK Health Secretary says the health and social care regulator in England is not fit for purpose. The leader of Mexico's Sinaloa cartel, one of the world's most powerful drug lords, is arrested in Texas. Hello and welcome, I'm Samantha Simmons. After years of planning and a full century after the French capital last hosted the Games, final preparations are underway for today's opening ceremony of the Summer Olympics in Paris. But this morning, those preparations have been disrupted by what officials are calling a major sabotage attack on France's high-speed rail network. This is the scene there live this morning. The French state railway company SNCF says its lines have been hit by arson attacks in a coordinated attempt to paralyse the network. Well, fires were started at 3 points on TGV lines running west, north and east of Paris, with 800,000 travellers, we're being told, affected. Well, Eurostar services from London to Paris have also been hit, with several trains cancelled and services diverted off high-speed lines and onto slower routes. Well, efforts are now underway to repair the damage, but they are not expected to be completed until after the weekend. Well, speaking at a press conference just now, the chief executive of the French rail network, SNCF, said an investigation was in progress, but they didn't yet know who was responsible for the attacks.
No, I don't know. There's an inquiry running at the moment, so the police force are looking after, of course, the people who have committed this assault against the French network. So it's ongoing. I have no information, no specific information on that.
Well, joining us now on the line is our Paris correspondent, Andrew Harding, who is at one railway station in Paris. Andrew, welcome to you. What's happening where you are? What's the picture?
Yes, good morning. I'm at the Gare du Nord, just in the centre of Paris. Crowded scenes here, not too chaotic. There are some trains coming and going, but as you say, the TGV, these high-speed lines, they go up to 300 kilometres an hour to Europe, to Germany, to Amsterdam, to Brussels, to London. Those are running very late indeed, if they're running at all. I spoke to one official here who said, look, we are diverting those high-speed lines, trains onto more regular lines. That means the network is still moving, but of course it has a knock-on effect on all the other trains. So although there is some movement, there is also huge disruption. We've seen trains delay 2-3 hours already. A lot of people here waiting to get out of Paris for their summer holidays. And of course, many more people trying to get into the city for tonight's opening ceremony and for 2 weeks of sport.
And what are the authorities saying about who might be behind this attack and how it's happened?
They're being very cautious at the moment about attributing any sort of blame. It is clear, and they're confirming that this was a coordinated attack on three successful attacks on 3 major train lines. A fourth on a southern line appears to have been disrupted by the police overnight, so that line is still working fine. A lot of French people, I think, will be wondering about Russian involvement, because there's been a pattern over the last few months of allegations that by the French authorities that Russians have been launching disinformation campaigns and also more concrete actions to try and undermine confidence in France and in security.
So they're blaming the Ruskies.
Security, of course, has been a key issue ever since Paris won the Games. They've been planning meticulously for this. Tens of thousands of security officers out and about around Paris. But I suppose the authorities would argue you can't prevent this kind of sabotage on a railway network.
No, and it's clearly a very worrying incident, and there'll be concerns that it may just be the start of more. But the French authorities have been planning this for a long time. Something like 45,000 French police are going to be in the city for this evening's unprecedented river-borne opening ceremony along the Seine. There are some 10,000 French troops here as well, plus more private security guards. So this is a city that's already been really in lockdown, particularly along the riverbanks for some days now.
And this impact, this sabotage, is going to last for several days, we understand. The authorities saying it's going to take at least the weekend to try and repair damage done.
Yes, I mean, clearly this is a problem. The timing is terrible for the organisers, but from the perspective we're getting here at the station is that the trains are running. There will be huge delays, but this has not brought French train networks and transport to a halt. It's simply major inconvenience for many people.
Yeah, major inconvenience. We can see hundreds of people milling around in this train station that we're looking at, the interior here. How have people reacted to this? What's the response been?
Very, very calm. I was talking to a group of young men who are heading up to Amsterdam for a concert this evening. They said, look, we'll wait, we'll see. It's out of our hands. I think, there's that general sense you get at train stations when people know that they may have to be sitting on their luggage and on the floor for many hours. But there's a feeling here that, as I say, the network is not entirely down. It's just going to be very, very slow and messy. And so people are waiting for the next announcements and the next guidance from the authorities here.
OK, Andrew, thanks very much. Well, as I was saying, Eurostar out of London St Pancras and into Paris also very much impacted. Let's speak to Ishitha Nagash, who is at the Eurostar terminal at St Pancras station. Welcome to you. Tell us what's happening there, what Eurostar have been saying.
Yes, of course. Well, as you can see, as you said, I'm at St Pancras, which is where the Eurostar connects London to Paris. Even on a normal day, it is extremely busy here, but especially today it was expected to be heaving because of people travelling for the Olympics and also just generally for summer holidays in France. Now, this morning, Eurostar have said they put out a status update on their website advising people, if they can, not to travel today and to postpone their journeys. And that's because that overhead rail line damage that we heard about just now from
where is she standing, man? She seems to be really getting
lines that run along Eurostar's normal route going down into Paris. And so they're having to redirect trains. And they've also told us in a statement that journey times could be around an hour and a half longer for people who do end up travelling today, or even people might face their trains being cancelled. They've described it as coordinated act of malice in France and have said that it's affected the high-speed line, not just between the train going to Paris, but also between Paris and Lille, and all high-speed trains going to and coming from Paris are being
Barack
diverted
Obama
via
has endorsed
classic
Kamala
line
Harris.
Today. They say that teams are fully mobilised in stations and in call centres to try and help people who are hoping to travel.
And Sky News is saying that they've got it live.
She said possibly, but she said at the moment they don't know the people involved could
who have disrupted. But anyone who has to cancel their travel today is able to travel to do so free of charge or get a full refund. And they can also modify their journeys free of charge.
Sheetha, I don't know if you've had a chance to go inside and talk to people, but anyone who's taken a train there knows that it's always busy anyway. It's not a huge area for people to gather in because they do rely on people being able to move through quite quickly and catch those trains and free up some space. Do you know what scenes are like inside?
Well, exactly. If you've been in St Pancras, you'll know there's that long concourse, and usually the queues going into the Eurostar are sort of funneled along the edge of that concourse quite close to a row of shops so that they're kept out of the main passageway. But when queues build up towards that Eurostar, it can be really disruptive, not just for people hoping to travel to France and onwards into Europe, but also people trying to get domestic trains in St Pancras, because that is really the passageway people need to take to get to those domestic trains. When I went in earlier, the queues were starting to build up. It's not too chaotic right now. It's still quite early in the day, but I could see a lot of people were looking agitated, looking confused, and clearly hoping to travel today and worried about what they can do.
OK, Sheetha, thank you very much for updating us there from St Pancras.
You can get off the road.
Now to other news, and the UK Health Secretary Wes Streeting says the body responsible for regulating health and social care services in England is not fit for purpose. It follows an independent review of the Care Quality Commission, which identified significant failings. The CQC says it accepts the findings.
Honesty is the best policy. That's why I've moved quickly to publish the interim findings, because there are ratings that people will be looking at today which I can't have confidence in. I don't think the public can have confidence in, and I've asked the CQC urgently to put in place transparency around those ratings so that people can see how those ratings were put together and then make a judgment about whether it's a true and fair and accurate reflection of the quality of care. Leadership is vital. We need a new permanent chief executive at the Care Quality Commission and a new chief inspector of hospitals that we can work with to turn the regulator around, and we're going to get the best person for the job if we are honest about the challenge and also reassuring them that whether it's the board or indeed the government, we will give them every bit of support they need to deliver the radical reform that organisation requires. And we've already got some work underway too. Professor Sir Mike Richards, hugely respected in this area, is already doing a rapid review of the assessment framework that's used to judge hospitals and care providers.
But I can, Michelle Obama.
Just to show you the scenes live in Paris, where President Emmanuel Macron is greeting dignitaries who've flown in from around the world. In fact, he's just gone inside, typical, isn't it? But he was just outside greeting world leaders, many of whom have travelled very far to come for the Olympic opening ceremony. But of course, this disruption caused by the sabotage to the rail network will be impacting everybody. 300,000 people expected to be at the opening ceremony, and today's attack on the transport network impacting 800,000 people. Let's get more on the CQC now, though, and our health correspondent Nick Triggle tells us more about who they are and how they operate.
They are there to identify failings in hospital services, in GP surgeries and dental surgeries, and across the care sector and care homes. But the report today that will be published later this morning, from what the government says, is incredibly damning. Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, has said the CQC is simply not fit for purpose, and he's stunned by the failures. And let's have a look at some of those failures. Inspectors who have been asked to go into hospitals having never been into a hospital before. A care home inspector who had never met a person with dementia. Across the board, there's inconsistencies in the way they inspect and assess these services. And there's also a big backlog of inspections. 1 in 5 of the services they've got responsibility for have yet to receive a rating. The Care Quality Commission has said it accepts the findings in full.
So they accept the findings in full. What happens next?
Well, as you were just hearing, the Health Secretary is looking at has been published, obviously. There's an interim chief executive in there. Sir Mike Richards, who was a former chief inspector of hospitals, is already at the CQC working alongside the...
So the government's putting a wrecking ball through the old...
and process
all their
support teams, the sort of the best there is to get the best performance out, and that's where the medal haul is so much higher gold medals, higher medals overall, and that traditionally when you host your own games, as we did in 2012, you normally do quite well 4 years later, but my looking of what we did in Tokyo was to see if we could buck that trend, and we did by the amount of medals that we won in Tokyo, and there's no reason why we won't win as many gold medals and medals across the board this time around in Paris.
Team GB won 22 gold medals in Tokyo, of course, far cry from the single gold won by Sir Steve Redgrave rowing in Atlanta in 1996. So Team GB preparing in the Olympic Village, waiting to see what the ceremony will be like tonight. One of the issues for them in that village has actually been food disruption and apparently shortages of some items of food. It has led to Team GB athletes eating more at their own performance lodge, which is not too far away in Paris, where they've got their own chefs. They're brought
food
in
was shite. Imagine going to Paris and the food being shite, man.
Feed the athletes. So
be well
we're also waiting to hear from Olympic organisers on the shortage of food impacting.
If you go to France, you want the grub to be
one of the big issues, obviously, for them is just working out the knock-on effects of this rail disruption and the attacks on the infrastructure. We were due to be hearing from them. We're obviously locked in their meetings, trying to prioritise ensuring everything goes smoothly with tonight's opening ceremony.
Rob Harris for the moment, thank you. And just worth noting that there are more details on the live blog on the Sky News app with regards to that situation in Paris. You can follow the developments across France.
I don't think it doesn't look like you could even grow a beard.
Into England's health and care watchdog has revealed significant internal failings that are hampering its performance. Health Secretary Wes Streeting said the Care Quality Commission is not fit for purpose following the damning findings. He told Sky News the government was...
Different channel, same shit.
Seeing an absolutely first-rate security operation.
Let's see what they were saying. Top of the
administration is clearly losing patience with him and his continued war on Gaza.
Sinaloa drug cartel are arrested.
Look away.
I'm Aline Saeed. This is Al Jazeera live from Doha. Also coming up.
Actually, let's go and have a look what the French are saying. That will be interesting.
A line from a very famous song. Essentially, it says, "Can I ever forget the blood of my brother?"
I'm Sarah.
Get the top of the hour news. Hashtag in the morning, my man.
I'm Sarah Morris, France 24 correspondent based in Madrid, bringing you news, reports and analysis on Spain and Portugal. So join me here on France 24.
Exactly, France.
One of the 200 France 20.
Hello and welcome back to Paris Direct. Here are the headlines. Hours to go before the Paris Olympics officially begin. Final preparations are underway before the event's first ever opening ceremony on water. 100 boats will carry 10,000 athletes along the River Seine through the French capital. 300,000 people expected to watch the event. And just before the games begin and millions leave for summer vacation, France's high-speed rail network was hit by coordinated, simultaneous acts of sabotage, including arson. Entire routes are to be cancelled. Some 800,000 passengers are affected.
Can't wait to hear.
And in the U.S., presumed challenger Kamala Harris accuses Donald Trump of backpedaling on a debate, saying, "What happened to any time, any place?" The Republicans' campaign team said it would not commit until the Democrats officially choose their presidential nominee in August. World leaders have arrived for the Paris Olympics while the city's residents are trying to flee for summer vacation. We're just hours away from the long-awaited or long-dreaded opening ceremony. For the first time, the ceremony will not take place in a stadium, but on water. Some 100 boats carrying about 10,000 athletes along the River Seine, winding 6 kilometers through the heart of Paris. Along the banks are expected to be some 300,000 spectators. Artistic director Thomas Joly has signed up 3,000 performers, including musicians, dancers, and singers. But he's been tight-lipped about who the famous stars are. Emerald Maxwell has more.
When everyone else has gone to bed, the Eiffel Tower is lit up for a last rehearsal before Friday's much-anticipated opening ceremony. Many names have been floated for a River Seine performance: Céline Dion and Lady Gaga, French disco producer Céron, and singer Juliette Armanet. None, though, have been officially confirmed. Organisers are keeping their cards close to their chest.
I'm just so stoked. Don't worry, guys, there'll be something for everyone.
Currently the most listened to French singer in the world, Aya Nakamura is said to be singing her own hits, as well as some of Charles Aznavour's, accompanied by musicians of the Republican Guard. But the most anticipated voice is, of course, hers. Céline Dion has been in Paris all week, sharing pictures like these of her visit to the Louvre Museum. Speculation is rife over what she will sing, with most bets on Edith Piaf's cult song, L'Hymne à l'amour. And as if to confirm
Celine Dion, she's Canadian, isn't she?
So
So Canada has like
overnight
French
Wednesday,
parts.
a boat was spotted in a rehearsal with a grand piano on board.
Don't mean genitalia.
Perhaps belonging to American pop star Lady Gaga,
I love you too. Thank you for getting my...
who's also out and about in Paris and apparently game for selfies with fans. Pianist Sofiane Pamar, meanwhile, is also expected to perform along the Seine, accompanying dancers who've been busy rehearsing, like this tightrope walker above the river. A spectacle full of surprises, promising to make Paris shine.
Well, hours before the opening ceremony, France's high-speed rail network was sabotaged. This Friday morning, French train operator SNCF said that overnight, vandals carried out coordinated, simultaneous malicious acts, including arson. This hitting lines before critical junctions. Connections towards northern, eastern, and northwestern routes are to be halved. Only the southeastern line was not affected. SNCF said the massive disruption will affect 800,000 passengers this weekend. French security forces are hunting for the culprits. Here's the country's transport minister.
Malicious acts were identified last night around 4 a.m. on high-speed lines on the SNCF network. On the TGV Atlantique, on the TGV Nord, and on the TGV Est, arson attacks may have been operative and therefore have direct consequences on high-speed lines. All the evidence we have points to the fact that this was a deliberate act, with the times coinciding, the vans found with people who fled, and the incendiary agents found at the scene. Everything points to the fact that these were deliberate acts, especially the timing, which is more than suspicious.
You think?
Also, as a result, multiple Paris-London Eurostar trains have been cancelled. This is already complicating what was a busy, chaotic travel period because of summer vacation and the Olympics' tight security restrictions. In an unprecedented move, all 3 Paris airports closed from 1 p.m. this Friday, creating a no-fly zone the size of Belgium during the opening ceremony. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu continues his visit to the United States. Today, he's slated to meet Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump. On Thursday, he met President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris separately. This was just a day after Netanyahu had delivered a fiery speech to Congress vowing total victory against Hamas. Harris, who's expected to be the Democratic nominee for the November election, told him it was time for the war in Gaza to end. The Prime Minister facing pressure, both at home and abroad, to bring that war to an end, now in its 9th month. Liza Kamenoff has
Such
more.
a pain in the arse setting up a fucking new mobile phone, man.
Israel's Prime Minister is continuing his tour of the US. He met with President Biden and Kamala Harris on Thursday as pro-Palestinian protesters gathered outside the White House condemning his arrival. But unlike Joe Biden, the US Vice President and presidential candidate adopted a firmer tone with Netanyahu when discussing Israel's war in Gaza.
What has happened in Gaza over the past 9 months is devastating. The images of dead children and desperate, hungry people fleeing for safety, sometimes displaced for the second, third, or fourth time. We cannot look away in the face of these tragedies. We cannot allow ourselves to become numb.
Your enemies are nut jobs' enemies, remember?
I will not be silent.
Kamala Harris pushed Benjamin Netanyahu to reach a Gaza ceasefire deal that could end the suffering of the Palestinian people.
There has been hopeful movement in the talks to secure an agreement on this deal. And as I just told Prime Minister Netanyahu, it is time to get this deal done.
A contrasting scene to Joe Biden's meeting, where the two leaders celebrated the US's long-term loyalty to Israel.
Mr. President, we've known each other for 40 years. And you've known every Israeli prime minister for 50 years. So from a proud Jewish Zionist to a proud Irish-American Zionist, I want to thank you for 50 years of public service and 50 years of support for the state of Israel.
Netanyahu is heading to Florida this Friday, where he will meet Donald Trump. The former president and Republican presidential candidate has long supported Israel and its prime minister. The Republican members of parliament cheered Benjamin Netanyahu during his high-profile speech in Congress on Wednesday, whilst 60 Democrats boycotted him. Though Trump had broken off his relations with Netanyahu back in 2021, the Israeli prime minister is trying to rekindle the old bond between them. But Donald Trump is already tempering his stance, calling on Israel to quickly end the fighting in Gaza.
Well, the New York Times and Siena College have released their first poll since Joe Biden announced he would not seek re-election. It shows a tight race to the White House between Republican Donald Trump and Democrats' presumed challenger Kamala Harris, separated by a single percentage point among likely voters. Moments ago, former President Barack Obama also endorsed Kamala Harris, saying she has, quote, the strength this critical moment demands. Earlier, Harris accused Trump of backpedaling on a debate. The Republican campaign team said it would not commit to any future debates until the Democratic Party formally chooses a nominee. Harris expected to be confirmed at the Democratic National Convention on the 19th of August. Here's what she had to say earlier.
So many of you have been asking me about the debate, and I'll tell you, I'm ready to debate Donald Trump. I have agreed to the previously agreed upon September 10th debate. He agreed to that previously. Now it appears he's backpedaling, but I'm ready. And I think the voters deserve to see the split screen that exists in this race on a debate stage. And so I'm ready. Let's go.
That's the news for now. Thank you for watching, and please stay tuned to France 24.
It was a war that lasted just 9 months, but that killed approaching 3 million people and displaced nearly 10 million. At the partitioning of India, at the end of British rule in 1947, the country divided into India and both West and East Pakistan. Despite being apart, the two halves of Pakistan were governed from the West, but there were huge differences, notably the West speaking Urdu, the East Bengali. Tensions soon escalated as the East believed they were being exploited. At the end of 1970, elections were won overwhelmingly in the East by an East Pakistani party, the Awami League. The results, though, ignored by the West. On the 7th of March 1971, its leader gave a passionate speech seen as announcing a struggle for independence.
Now the people of Bangla want freedom. The people of Bangla want to live
Is that
People in
Bangladesh?
Bangladesh want to have their rights.
Well, there followed a violent crackdown. Operation Searchlight, launched by the West. The civil war had begun, sparking a huge refugee crisis. It wasn't until the end of the year that Pakistan ultimately conceded defeat, leading to the permanent liberation of Bangladesh. Well, since then, Bangladesh has seen remarkable change. Millions have been lifted out of poverty. It is one of Asia's fastest growing economies, thanks to, for example, its huge garment industry. But there remain huge challenges. Well, Leah Delfuli, Faisal Mahmoud and Kanza Junaid revisit Bangladesh for France 24.
In this building, located in the business district of the capital, Dhaka, Vidya Amrit Khan stares at photos of her father, Noor.
Well, guys and girls, have a nice weekend. Tune in tomorrow morning. I might do a wee daily PoliTITS tomorrow. Mind stick a wee thumbs up and all that jazz. I've got 1,001 things to do today. So tune in tomorrow. Definitely Monday I'll be doing a daily PoliTITS. I'm going to start getting back to doing it Monday to Friday at the very least. 1,001 things to do today, so I'm going to go and do the off. Have a nice weekend, y'all, if I don't see you tomorrow. That's me on my 4th TikTok now. Tommy Robinson's so toxic, man. All you do is need to talk about him and TikTok throw you off, man. Unfucking believable. Anyway, have a nice weekend, y'all. Enjoy the Olympics and all that jazz. Get it. Got it. Good. Catchies. Hashtag have a nice weekend, mate.
Keeps clips.
And remember, citizens, always subscribe. Hit the notification. I need to end the... so the poll that had Will Harris beat Trump in the US election, 0% said 13 votes, 0 say no, 77% say... 0 say yes, 77% no, Harris won't beat Trump, and 15% say not sure. But let's have a wee look at the bookies, actually. See what the bookies are saying to it. So, Kamala Harris is odds on, Michelle's at 21s. I think it's like a week or something till they definitely get confirmed. Let's see if they do the US election. Presidential election. Trump is still odds on, but Kamala Harris is shorter odds than Biden, so she's still under 3s, and Trump is just under 2s. Time will tell. Time will tell, but interesting nevertheless. And that's the Olympics getting fucked up. The French trains getting called off. So have a nice weekend, y'all. I'll catch you next time. Get it, got it good. Catchies.
Keeps clips.
And remember, citizens, always subscribe. Hit the notification bell as well. And $19.95 plus shipping and handling will keep you out of hell.